Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing what your ex regrets now. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Subscribe to my weekly support emails. The link is in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing what your ex regrets now. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you will be interested to know your ex has regrets. But what are they? In today's podcast, I'm discussing 3 likely regrets that your ex could be feeling now. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is I regret suggesting we could be friends. Now this is a regret that I've been told by many dumpers, and it is the regret that they suggested that they, the dumper, and you, the dumpee, could remain friends after the breakup. Now generally this does come from a good place. When your ex-dumper might offer you platonic friendship, it is often from a good place that they are offering this. They are not considering the consequences of what could happen after they ask you this question. Now the reason that they might offer you platonic friendship is because they do value you to a high degree. You could even say that they love you to a certain degree, but unfortunately for you, the dumpee, they don't love you in a romantic sense. They love you in a platonic sense, and hence they want to keep this side of a relationship going. Now it could be argued that this is very selfish. Your ex-dumper has ended the relationship, that was their decision. This means that this is on their terms, and now they are trying to redefine your connection again for something that they want. They're not really listening, or you might even say caring about what you think. They're just trying to change things. They don't want romance with you, but they do want that platonic side that they actually love. And hence dumpers will sometimes get to the stage of where they offer platonic friendship post-breakup. Sometimes it's straight away, sometimes it's a few weeks down the line when they realise what they've actually lost. Now for you as a dumpee, this might sound like a positive situation arising from something terrible. You're heartbroken, you didn't want the relationship to end, but you are starting to see a little positivity in your ex-dumper offering you this platonic friendship because you're thinking, well, if we're friends, then I can evolve this connection over time to get back together. And this, unfortunately, is where point number 1 really comes into play, because most of the time, your ex-dumper is not going to be happy that you try and change this back to romance, and your ex-dumper is going to regret ever offering you this platonic friendship if and when you try and make this change. You see, from their perspective, they've ended the relationship, they've offered you platonic friendship, you have accepted it, and they believe, okay, my dumpee's happy with this. They are just as happy as I am about redefining our connection. They don't see it, but you are actually planning to try and change this relationship dynamic once more back to romance. They don't see it that way. It's almost as if in their mind you have signed a contract that this is now platonic. So if and when you show your cards and you state that you actually want to be romantic, whether this is something you say verbally, in a text, maybe you try and make a physical move on them, you could say, well, this is unlikely to go down well. Most of the time, dumpers will be very shocked. You said you didn't mind just being friends, so why are you doing this? Why did you try to kiss me? Why did you send that text? Why are you unhappy that I'm dating someone new? I thought you were fine with this. Now you as a dumpee, you're probably thinking, well, I thought this was just some type of complicated dance that we were doing, because in my mind, how could we be anything but romantic? So this is where there is a huge discrepancy between dumper and dumpee in this position. Now listen, am I saying that at no point could a dumper and dumpee get back together romantically if they are in a platonic friendship? Of course, I'm not saying definitively every single couple, but what I am saying is most of the time, a platonic friendship will not change back into romance. This is why it's known as the friend zone. This is why everybody tries to escape the friend zone, and this is why everybody finds it very tough to leave the friend zone. It's not easy. Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. Occasionally, a dumpee will actually hit the jackpot in their mind and change that relationship dynamic once more to what they want. But most of the time, they won't be able to. And when they try to, this is when a dumper will really regret suggesting they could be friends. And unfortunately for the dumpee, they will likely then move on in an even stronger way than previously, perhaps by blocking the dumpee or something to that regard. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube, and if you have the new hype feature, please hype this video as well. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is I regret saying cruel things. So today we're speaking about dumper regrets and what your ex-dumper likely regrets right now. And one of the second most common things that a dumper might regret are the cruel things they may have said to the dumpee at the time of the breakup. Now, as a dumpee, you listening to what I'm saying here might give you a smile. It might make you feel a little happy and go through your day a little easier to know that your ex-dumper does likely regret what they said, maybe the tone, maybe how they said it during the breakup. I've been told by many dumpers that they regret saying the cruel things that they may have said at the breakup. Now you might be thinking, well, why would they regret something that they clearly thought about and actually wanted to say? You know, it's true that dumpers generally will be thinking about a breakup long before they action it. So if they're thinking about it for a long while, then why would they then regret how they deliver that message? Well, the reality is that nobody knows how things are going to go at the time of a breakup. Emotions run high. You as a dumpee may have said something, may have reacted in a certain way, may have triggered the dumper into their own defense mechanism where they almost fight fire with fire and then say something back to you. Now, I'm not putting blame on you dumpees, and I'm also not trying to say that the dumper came out of this from nowhere. They likely did think of this beforehand. But there is more than one way to consider this. Firstly, we can all change, grow and evolve. I'm sure there are things, dumpees, that you have said in your past which you now regret. Nothing to do with your ex, just life in general. We all get to the stage where we might look back on our life and think, actually, I wish I hadn't said that in that kind of way. So just in that principle alone, you can see how a dumper may regret something they said to you, but the main part being that the breakup is emotional and it can be unpredictable about how it's going to go. Now, maybe you were dumped in person, maybe it was over the phone, maybe it was by text, maybe it was via them ghosting you, and then you heard from your ex later down the line and they said something very cruel. There are almost infinite amount of ways this sadly took place, but what is quite common is the time of a breakup is going to have things said that people regret. Now, you as a dumpee, you might regret something that you said at the time of a breakup. So again, you can see how this is possible. But when you're going through the grind, you often take the words your ex-dumper said to you and you set them in stone. And you think, well, this is definitive. This is something that cannot be changed, but it can be. Similarly, dumpees will often ask me, how can my ex-dumper have loved me if they now end the relationship? Did they never love me? How could they have said this and then done that? This shows that we speak and we feel in the moment. What somebody thinks and feels a few months ago is not necessarily what they're going to be thinking and feeling right now, and it doesn't mean they're going to be thinking and feeling the same a few months from now. Things change, things evolve, and generally, a dumper is not going to want to be hurting you. They don't want to hurt their dumpee, they just want to get out of a relationship that they no longer feel is working for them. This is something they've decided to do, but they didn't really want to do. They didn't want to end the relationship when they got with you in your connection. They didn't plan, 5 years from now, I'm going to end this relationship. They didn't want this to happen. They felt it had to happen. And maybe during the moment of delivering this message, whether this was in person or literally via a text or whatever it may be, sadly, things can get lost in translation through the emotion. Sometimes things are said to try and convey a point. Maybe they're trying to let you know in no uncertain terms this relationship is over, and so they are overemphasizing words. Maybe they're swearing. Maybe they are saying things such as, I hate you. They don't likely hate you. Now, the likelihood is they don't really hate you. This is a situation where emotions have run so high that they've said something very, very painful. So as a dumpee, if you are really holding the words of your ex from the past and thinking, well, they've said this is what that means. What I would say to you is, although I can't say for certain how your ex-dumper feels right now, what I do know is that many dumpers have told me that they regret the things they said at the breakup. Now, does this mean you will get back together? Well, not necessarily, but what it does show is that there is time and possibility of change. If they said something really cruel, and now they're no longer thinking this way, well, that shows an evolution of thought. It shows that feelings and situations can change, and this might move you a step forward to eventually your ex-dumper regrowing romantic emotional attraction and getting a bit closer to hopefully reconnecting. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the build-up of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is I regret ending the relationship. Now, this is the holy grail of what a dumpee is hoping their ex regrets. If your ex-dumper regrets ending the relationship, you are on the verge of reconnecting. Or maybe we just need to temper our expectations a little at that moment. Yes, it is wonderful that your ex-dumper may get to the stage of regretting that they ended your relationship, but we now need to make sure we get this over the line and reconnect properly. If your ex comes to this conclusion, they will likely reach out to you, and this is where the communication stage will begin. You're no longer in no contact. You've heard me speak extensively about my version of a no contact rule and how most dumpees, in my opinion, should implement my version of a rule to increase their chance of getting their ex back. It regrows romantic emotional attraction in your dumper's mind. But when it hits that necessary high point, this is when they will regret ending the relationship. That's brilliant. But this is when they'll reach out, and you now move into the next stage, the communication stage. Yes, you are tantalizingly close to getting your ex back, but it's not done yet. You need to navigate this effectively, making sure that you and your ex want to see each other, because you can't be reconnecting over the phone. You can't be sending text and get back together. This is for ultimately getting to a point of where you see each other physically. Lots of people contact me for support via my audio coaching service about the communication stage, because it is a very delicate procedure about how to increase that chance of going from texting, which is generally the way your ex will reach out to you, and getting to the point of meeting. But if you can navigate this effectively, get to the meeting stage, and have a successful meetup, this is when you can get your ex back. Now, your dumper isn't going to regret ending the relationship anytime soon if you were dumped just a few days ago. From my own research, the likelihood is that it would be at least 6 to 12 months before, as an average amount of time, your dumper gets to this conclusion. And this is if you implement my version of no contact. If you decide to chase your ex, not only are they not going to be regretting their decision during that time you're chasing, but you're pushing them further and further away, making the time to get them back likely even longer. So in essence, if you want to get your ex back, you should be implementing no contact ASAP, because for 6 to 12 months isn't going to be starting until you do. You can't say, well, my ex dumped me 9 months ago. I've not heard anything. What's going on? And then you actually consider the fact that you've texted them 3 or 4 times in that 9 months. Maybe every couple of months or so you've sent them a message. Well, unfortunately, you are resetting the clock. So this is where you need to do what you can do to increase your chances, not reduce your chances. But if you behave in the right way, if you live your life in the right way, if you become a version 2.0 of yourself, then your ex-dumper could get to the stage of one day thinking, I regret ending the relationship.